how to take stock to supersize your business. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. And our idiom, our expression today is to take stock of something. Now, I started thinking about this idiom and this expression. Of course, the first thing that popped into my mind was all of the times for different businesses that have actually had to do a physical count, a physical inventory. And normally I think of how boring and how tedious and how much I hated doing it, because it's a very detail-oriented thing, right? Everything has to be counted in its physical location. And then a lot of times, depending on the type of business, things are in more than one place. So we had a liquor business at one time that we had to do inventory for, fireworks businesses, retail businesses primarily, take stock, literally count the physical inventory certain times during the year. Some businesses count it every month. I'm sure you've been in a store, maybe your favorite store, and they've got a bunch of people running around nowadays with little electronic devices and computers that actually scan the UPC codes or scan a code and automatically automate the process and do it on computers. Well, we used to do it the old-fashioned way with paper and pencil, and then we entered the century of computers and we started to do them on computer spreadsheets and things, but it still required a physical count, a physical inputting of the data, and then a reconciliation of what was on hand versus what our accounting and our paperwork and our register systems said we should have. Once cash registers became more than just calculators where they calculated the amount of change that you could have. So taking stock, how does take stock? Why do you want to take stock? Why is it important? What the heck is it and where does it come from? This is one of those idioms or expressions that actually came from the theatrical world, all the way back to 1761. Back then, theater groups and troupes used to travel around together, or they would perform regularly in the same theater. And the theater manager would take stock of what acts were available, what actors and shows were available, what could be performed on any given day, given the people and the resources that they had. That was called taking stock. And then in about 1870, the meaning of the expression taking stock went from literally counting or paying attention to what you've got to regarding something as important, okay? It's important, so we pay attention to it. That's why we measure certain things for our businesses. We measure the things that matter, that are important to us. Well, why do you want to take inventory? And then we'll talk about how do you do it. It's a simple 5-step process. So why do we want to do it? Well, we want to do things like know what's going on for real in our businesses. We want to, if we ever want to sell our business someday, we actually want to have audited third-party accounting records and inventory and documentation and processes and things so that we can have a valuable asset that we can sell. One of my favorite ways that I learned about that are related to this particular idiom, take stock, is something called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And once I learned that 4-step framework, I use it for a lot of things throughout my life, throughout my career, throughout evaluating businesses, evaluating myself, evaluating employees, evaluating people and situations and all kinds of things. It was a great way to take stock because it gave me a framework to look at, okay, what are the strengths of this situation or this person or this business? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? So it gave me a framework to categorize things so I could compare different businesses to one another. So when I wanted to buy a new business, I would always do a SWOT analysis, and it gave me a way to compare apples to oranges because every business is different. So why do we want to do this? And what are other ways to take stock and use stock? I love, one of my favorite ways to build a business and start a business and bring the right team members on board is to provide stock options, and equity in the business to people. We want to negotiate stock options when we get a new job, depending on what your job is. You want to always be, and I want to always be, an owner in the projects that I participate in. Number one, it makes me act like an owner, think like an owner, and I make better long-term decisions for that endeavor than if I were just getting paid or getting a paycheck. So what are the 5 steps to take stock? And why do we want to do it? We really want to do it because what taking stock means is it's to think carefully about a situation or about something, to evaluate it or an event, and then form an opinion about it. How many people just see something, automatically adopt the opinion of something that they see or hear, and then
all of a sudden they don't follow all the steps that are required. So the 5-step process to take stock in something, what the heck are those steps? Number 1, we need to detach. We need to not be attached to the outcome or the thing that we're evaluating, right? When I am doing a SWOT analysis or taking stock of a certain company to decide if I want to participate in or buy that company, or if I want to create a company in a new market or create a new company in an old market, the first thing I have to do is detach from the outcome. Whether I do it or not is going to be determined on all of the SWOT analysis and the big overall, big picture observations of potential of that business. It isn't because I'm emotionally attached to it or because I love it. So often as business owners, and I've been there too, we fall in love with our business and we lose our ability to see it clearly. So we lose sight of what's really going on and what's going on in the world around us because we're so focused on just our little piece of it that we can actually find ourselves out of business because we didn't take stock soon enough. So we want to detach from the outcome and detach and not really be emotionally involved in. And I get it, that's really hard to do, especially if it's something you've done for decades. I ran a manufacturing business for 37 years and you get attached and it's hard to detach and be objective. The second thing we want to do is observe. We want to look at objectively what's going on. We want to try to gather information. We want to look and listen and pay attention to what's going on. We want to notice if things are changing in the environment. We want to notice if things are changing in our business. And that often requires that we step back, detach, and actually just be an observer. We watch, we look, we listen, we see what's going on. And then the third step of the process of how to take stock is we record. We actually document our observations. We write down the things that we're finding, the things that we're seeing. Why? Because then we can evaluate it. And we're going to do that in the next step. The fourth step is I've got elevate, but I don't think that's right. I think it's supposed to be evaluate. We evaluate what is going on. We look at it, we record, we're detached, we observe, we get facts and figures, we write them down, we document them, then we evaluate all the information, right? We look at all the information, we look at all the facts, we look at all of our observations, and then we decide. We make a decision, we make a choice on what it means to us, what our opinion is. We form our opinion after we do all those things. So we don't watch CNN or MSNBC or any Fox News or any news station or anything outside of us. We don't just watch that, get all emotionally upset, which is what media does intentionally to people. They get us all emotionally upset about something, and then they want us to form an opinion. And they don't really want us to form an opinion. They want us to adopt their opinion. And it's all structured to persuade and, I say, manipulate us in that way. Taking stock is just the opposite of propaganda, manipulation, and other people's opinion. It's the purposeful forming of your opinion based on detachment, observation, recording the data and gathering facts and figures, evaluating the information, and then deciding if you're going to do something or not, what your opinion is or not. It's all around the topic of thinking for ourselves. And the world, if you don't think for yourself, somebody else in the world is glad to think for you and tell you what to do. But if we're building and supersizing our businesses, it's imperative that we think for ourselves. So, curious what your personal experience has been with this idiom, this expression, taking stock. I take stock a lot. I take stock in myself. I take stock in the resources and the people that I work with and I partner up with. I take stock in, meaning I do a SWOT analysis. That's how I do stock and take stock in things, is do SWOT analysis. I do it in any business endeavor, any partnership, any project I'm going to do. And sometimes it's simple, easy. I just take a piece of paper and I SWOT and I just brainstorm out the list because it's a simple, easy thing to decide. Other times, I got to sit down. I got to observe. I got to collect information. I've got to record the data. I've got to do some computer analysis on it to determine if it's the right move. And then, of course, there's always literally counting and accounting for the physical stock that we have in our organization. Why? Because we want to make sure things are actually matching up. One of the fastest ways to find out if there's a loss or a challenge in your organization, or if there's unreported losses due to production errors or things, is by doing physical counts and inventories. All right, share in the comments below your experience with taking stock, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with another interesting idiom. What does it mean? Where does it come from? How might you use it to supersize and grow your business and make the world a better place, or even your life? This month, we're focusing on challenges and change. All right, have a great day.